It's game day, Detroit. You're waking up with Woodward and Maine, your source for all the insider information on the defending NFC North champion Detroit Lions. With insight from Detroit sports media legend Terry Foster and rising star No one gives away more cash and prizes than Woodward Sports. You don't believe us? Here's our latest $10,000 winner.
You guys posted, hey, if you guess all this stuff right, we'll give it's $10,000. I'm like, okay, well, why the hell not?
And the winning doesn't stop there. How about our Outkick Your Coverage winner?
I think you won.
This guy's got a hot girl.
Bigger prizes, bigger giveaways, cash, merch, tickets, and more. All from the biggest sports network in Detroit. No one does it bigger and better than Woodward Sports. Make sure you're following, liking, subscribing on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube for your chances to share in the winning. From Detroit's #1 sports network, Woodward Sports.
Wake up, Woodward. We're live from the beautiful Edgewood Country Club. Man, it is beautiful to be back out here again on these golf courses with the backdrop changes behind
What's
us.
that?
State Captain, man. It's your boy Brandon, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Hey, Flannel, Sam Reynolds, it's good to see you in the flesh again, man. We are back. You're back from overseas, man. The veteran squad, better than network. I see you got your godson's jersey on, man. What up, though, brother?
I pay my bets. I believe it was after the game where Riley Green hit 2 home runs in the 9th inning, including the go-ahead one where it was tied 1-1. Insane feat, by the way, where his OPS did climb to 827. I think it has since dipped to about 790, but a bet is a bet. I wish I would have never said those horrible, awful things about my favorite Tiger, Riley Green, but because of that, I will be wearing his jersey for a long time.
Something tells me that you like doing this to yourself. Something tells me that you always believed in Riley Green, and you just wanted to push yourself to buy a Riley Green jersey.
There was certainly an element of reverse jinx, so I can claim that now. But at the time, I did say some pretty out-of-pocket things.
Live look at Flannel buying the jersey. Oh, gosh, I have to buy this Riley Green jersey. What a beaut.
Hey, when I go to Comerica Park, this is what I'm going to be wearing.
Take this money out of my own pocket. You know, here's a tip.
I mean, I specifically had to save some and not spend too much in Ireland because I knew when I came back I did have a Riley Green jersey to buy, which is fine, which is great, but Ireland was awesome. First time out of the United States, would definitely recommend.
And
10
that
times
is
out of
what's
10.
up, man. I hit 3 states, man, in the span of 4 or 5 days. Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida. And you know what? Shout out to my sister. She graduated from University of South Alabama. She's going into OBGYN, so she starts residency. But shout out to her. I call her Lisi. Her name is Alicia. And you know what? Proud of her, man. It's proud to see family doing well. I know your sister also had some big accomplishments, too. Just recently. So shout out to family, shout out to Trip, shout out to being back because we got to talk about some sports today, man. You want to tell the people what's on the docket before we question a little bit of what's going on in this NBA world?
Hey, absolutely. We got a lot on the docket. We got a little bit of baseball because this last series wasn't great, and there's a little bit more question about the starting pitching staff now that a certain person went to the injured list. We also got some some Lions talk. Rookie minicamp happened this weekend. We're going to talk about the rookies a little bit, and we're also going to talk about something that Good Morning Football said about our Detroit Lions. And at the back end, we'll discuss some Pistons because Trajan Langdon certainly had some interesting comments in the press conference. Is the core good enough? Do they need to make a move? Does it need to be this offseason? Find out later.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it because for so many years, it seemed like to accelerate this thing, you had to go and make a splash. And now the tune, it sounded like it might be a little bit different. So I can't wait to get there. But talking about the NBA, right? Somebody won Coach of the Year. And now he's missing. I don't remember his name even. I don't even remember what he looks like. Because his team is getting blown the F out, man. A historic 41-point halftime deficit for the Cavs against the Pacers, man. Wow. I thought he was the Coach of the Year, bro. Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah, so I'm not going to.
They told me it was J.B. Bickerstaff. That's what I was told. Shout out Neil Rule.
If they go out in the second round. as the 1 seed with 64 regular season wins, man, that would be a disaster for them, and you would just hate to see it. I'm not going to write their obituary just yet because it is 3-1. They do have games 5 and a hypothetical game 7 for now at home, but a 41-point halftime deficit in the playoffs is just embarrassing. And the fact that they're down 3-1, it is very, very unlikely that Cleveland comes back, especially since Indiana, they look like almost a completely different team in the playoffs. I mean, they were good in the regular season, but they've elevated their game. But, yeah, Kenny Atkinson, your coach of the year. First couple of games really mismanaged some late game situations that the Cavs probably feel like they should win. And then game 4, 41-point halftime.
Donovan Mitchell said it was a JB Bickerstaff problem. I think we said it might be a Donovan Mitchell problem, but I digress. I digress. We will see how this things go. You got to be fair to it. But I have never liked a player that I hate more in my life than Tyrese Halliburton right now, dog. Seeing him dance around and realizing what they could do to at least give Detroit just a little bit of something to just say, you know what? That's pretty nice over there. It would be dope to see Kenny Atkinson bow out in the second round, something that they said was a symptom of J.B. Bickerstaff, when in reality we saw him actually contribute to lifting and elevating the Pistons this year. Had a chance to go a little bit further. And obviously a lot of what they're going to be and how he's going to be viewed is going to be what the Pistons do from here. But right now he's being acquitted quite well to this point with the Cavaliers series.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, that is the classic situation of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Because
he is my West Mantooth right now.
I mean,
shout out Ron Barkley.
The first couple, he's just hit some big-time shots in these playoffs, particularly Game 2. I mean, we know Game 3 wasn't great. Even yesterday, he didn't do a whole lot. But it's funny how having teammates around you like Miles Turner, who can go 100% from 3, can help a young point guard win some games. Interesting. Weird.
Hey, you know what? Shout out to the rest of the crew as well. Our brother KG. I know KG and JB, they did their thing. What, AEW, JB Smooth? No, Credential? Yeah, come on. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I don't want to steal your thunder or anything, but I'm going to make sure that the people understand what's going on. You guys out there handling your business for Woodward Sports and Woodward Ringside. You had your boots on the ground, man. It was epic to see, JB. No, you're good, bro. Just want to make sure we shout that out. And as well, brother Matthew, brother, that dude Justin. We got Kavasier Chase in the building. What up, though, brother? Hey, chilling, man. Hey, and chat family, as always, you all are the most important part of this thing. So go on ahead and smash that like button. Let's run it up today because we got a lot on this menu. I can't wait till we get to the TLB topics. But just to talk about Riley Green real quick before we get into more of this menu today. Riley Green, how are you feeling about him overall? Where's that temperature? It seems like it's far, far, far away from where you were maybe about a month ago.
I mean, he's officially back. I know that when he got out of the slump the first time, he was back, but not really. But then pretty much after I left, he went on a tear. He won American League Player of the Week, for crying out loud. Had a game where he had 2 home runs in the same inning. He's been on fire, and it's great to see. Unfortunately, his efforts over the weekend didn't result in a whole lot because the bats as a whole didn't really get it done, and the pitching wasn't super great, besides for Friday. Thank you, Tarek Skubal, by the way. But it's good to see that Riley Green looks to be officially back, and I think he's going to make a run at an all-star bid. I'm not quite ready to say that I'm going to call it just yet, but he's certainly making that run for it. His OPS right now is back at 789, and one thing that I'm very encouraged about, because it's something I was discouraged about even at the beginning of the year when he was playing really well, is that in the last 5 games, 4 walks. Last year, he led the team in walks. He was always the one that I thought had the best plate discipline out of anybody in the organization, certainly on the big league club, but wasn't showing that at the beginning. But that plate discipline, that ability to take walks and let those bad pitches go, is what makes me even more encouraged, even almost as much as the home runs, that he is officially back.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you say that. It's different hearing you talk about him right now versus where we were about a month and a half ago, and not just you, but a lot of people. The discourse was getting pretty wide looping and wide ranging as it related to what do you even do to fix O'Reilly Green. But to see him be able to pull through this, I think for the long term, he's continuing to prove that he's someone you can believe in. He's someone you can keep investing in. And as long as we see him get better, awesome. But what do you want to see him do? What needs to happen for him to make that all-star appearance? Before I wanted to ask you one more question, because I know we're going to get to Casey Mines.
Sure.
But there's one other person that I need to ask you about, too, of some concern.
All right. So with Riley Green, I think right now he's hitting the ball well. He's hitting with a lot of power. I like his approach. He's hit several opposite field home runs, including the one on Saturday, which was just a display of grown man strength. I think as the on-base percentage goes up, as it gets to be, which I think he'll get at some point, like 330, 335, 340, and the slugging continues as it is, and the OPS gets to where it's about 830, 840, that's when I'm ready to 100% say Riley Green should be an all-star this year.
Yeah.
I do love the 9 home runs, though, and 22 RBIs. Those are really good power numbers. It's just when you have that, you want that OPS to be a little bit better than 789, but it'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. Now, of concern, because I know we're going to talk about Casey Mize and what this means for the Tigers, as well as them losing a series. That's not something that we're used to seeing out of the Detroit Tigers. They've gotten us pretty much fired up. What if they dropped maybe 3 or 4 series, I believe, all season? Not many, but they're still 2.5 games up in the Central, 2.5 games up in the AL. They've actually widened their lead over the last time we really took a look at the standings. They were up maybe a half a game and then a game and a half, and their differential is absolutely insane as it relates to the AL. Only the Yankees are tied with them, and everybody else comes a pale second. Like, I think the closest team may be 50 runs behind the Tigers and the Yankees as it relates to differential. But Jack Flaherty. Do we have to be concerned?
Man, I was gonna get to that. I was gonna get
save it if you have it.
I was gonna get to that in the next segment because I think there's some questions about the pitching staff that maybe we didn't have a week ago or
like a couple
10 days ago.
Yeah.
And it's not DEFCON 5 or anything like that. It's just that we were doing this. Remember when I was on the show last and I would put up these graphics of like everybody's ERA is under 350. Several of them are under 3, and obviously Casey Mize was healthy.
Yep.
It's not like that right now. It could just be as simple as April baseball. You have a bad outing, your ERA balloons, and it's not that big of a deal. But Jack Flaherty has certainly been the one whose poor play or poor pitching recently has been the most glaring because he hasn't pitched well in the last 3 starts, and the Tigers have lost all of them.
Man, oh man, oh man. You know what? Let's say what up to some friends. I want to get into this conversation because you're right. Just before you left, and then obviously on the show, and I know that Justin and KG talked about it. A lot of the conversation is about how good the Detroit Tigers look. The national narrative is talking about the fact that the Detroit Tigers are now looking like surely one of the top teams, and they're doing it because they're not just beating up on some of the bottom feeders. They're beating up on your top teams in the league, and they're faring very well. You see what they're doing in terms of runs scored, runs allowed. They're a really well-balanced team, really well-managed team. And now you're seeing that the only thing that would be able to really trip them up, we thought it might be the bats that would slow them, but it could potentially be maybe some injuries that slow them. But we'll see, man.
Yeah, we will see. And before I get to that, I got to read this $4.99 super chat from Dante151. Breaking news, the NFL is still the no fun league. I mean, seriously, Eagles versus Cowboys, that's the most dumbest decision I have ever seen. F that game. Is that going to be the opener? The opener is Eagles-Cowboys. I don't agree with that. I would probably make it.
If you're the NFL, the best time to capitalize on the Cowboys is the beginning hype. The beginning of the season hype.
Yeah, I mean
you have to.
I get it. Yeah, they're always back to some degree, but
for a few weeks.
Hey, George Pickens, I actually like that trade for them, by the way. But that's neither here nor there.
It's crazy that one went down when everyone believed it was going to be J-Mo getting traded, or at least some people pushed that around. But to see Pickens get traded, on that 5th year, that's interesting.
I mean, say what you want about Pickens, he has been productive, even though he's a bit of a crash out. But he has been very, very productive. He's damn talented, and CeeDee Lamb gets his they could be one of the best receiving duos in the NFL this year. But that's another story for another day. But right now, I got to tell you about Mad Packs. It is such a great cannabis product. You can't get enough of it. Boom Shakalaka. Boom Shakalaka is one of their products. And if you want to get high, Mad Packs is the way to go.
How do people feel about getting a Planet Fitness membership for $15 a month? How do they like working out in a clean and spacious gym that's filled with equipment for every workout? And how about free fitness training in the judgment-free zone that leaves them feeling energized all day long? Join Planet Fitness today with the free PF app, online or in club, and start getting that big fitness energy for $15 a month.
A network for the city, by the city. Woodward Sports is Detroit Sports. That's why they deserve the best sports coverage in the world. We are the Woodward Sports Network. Big injuries, big news. Twice a week, Dr. Jeff Pierce from Michigan Sports and Spine joins Woodward Sports Network for the Injury Insider Report. Big D Energy Tuesdays at noon, and Ermanni and Edwards with Maz Thursdays at 3:30. Get expert analysis and in-depth breakdowns on the latest sports injuries from the man trusted by top athletes in the community, like D-Mac. Whether it's the Lions, Pistons, Tigers, or Red Wings, Dr. Pierce talks us through it all. Don't miss the Injury Insider Report with Dr. Jeff Pierce, your go-to source for understanding the impact of injuries on the games and players we love. Only on Woodward Sports Network. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to MichiganSportsandSpine.com to see if Dr. Jeff Pierce can help you.
Hey, Loom is another one of those great cannabis products that you can get. 30% off any product, Loom 30. Get you some Loom.
Get you some Loom. What up, though, people?
I am not a weed man.
If you're feeling the gloom, go to Loom, WSN 30% off your order.
Thank you, Chase. I've been looking for a
Shout out to Loom, man. Shout out to Woodward Sports. Shout out to Edgewood. Country Club is the site of where we are today for the next 3 broadcast hours. Big D Energy and E&E, that is Ermanni and Edwards with Maz. It's going to be a good day. We're out here as well. They're supporting the kids again, our organization. And we got to talk about some more of these Jungle Cats, the Detroit Tigers. They're still hot. Even though they drop a series, even though they lose a couple games, even though there's some questions and some concerns, this team is still 2.5 games up. They're still proven to be a really consistent team. And to me, I believe that the Rangers, they just caught them at the wrong time. That's not a slouch of a team over there. You see them right now, especially in like their last 10 games. The Rangers have been a formidable opponent, and you saw that in the series against the Detroit Tigers, which I believe you run it back, you could get the series to go the Tigers' way. Baseball is a fickle sport. But there are some things that have creeped up that have some people questioning at least what is that overall ceiling, as we continue to go through the season and we move this thing around. The Detroit Tigers, just about a week ago, shout out to Bobby Smarter, we were talking about this team is clearly the best squad in the Central. This is a squad that is going to have a great chance to win the AL, but now you look at what's going on with Flaherty. You look at what's going on with Casey Mize, who was looking like a clear-cut number 2. And so where is that level of concern for you, Flannel Sam, with the Detroit Tigers and those expectations, the new expectations that they've set for themselves that look like they're going to blow through a lot of people's win totals? There were some people who were in the 70s and the 80s. You were 88, 91. Yeah. Those totals I still think are going to be totals that they hit and potentially get beyond. I'm not as concerned right now.
Well, part of losing a series is just the ebbs and flows of baseball. And this is why shout out to Justin and shout out to KG. They did a great job. And I think, Chase, you kind of checked them on this. When they were talking about 22-6 in the month of May, because I tuned in. I had to, I'm not always here, but I'm always here. I almost passed out. I was driving and I almost crashed the car because 22-6 stretches are unicorn-like. It was never going to happen. No chance. And that's okay, by the way, because if you go through May like 18-10, you have a fantastic month. So I'm not calling for them to go 22-6. And this is kind of what we've seen recently is one of the reasons why, and it's what makes baseball such a fickle sport, especially at the beginning of the year. Because right now, I'm looking at their pitching staff, which I still think is one of the best in baseball in terms of their starting pitching. And we've seen Tarek Skubal take it up to a level that I may have never even seen. He looks like one of the best pitchers I've ever laid eyes on right now.
Bro, the money they talking about for him is ridiculous.
And the way that he's pitched lately is just, it's unicorn-like. However, what's going on around him in the pitching staff, you've seen Jackson Job's ERA balloon up to 4.88. You've seen Jack Flaherty's balloon up to 4.61. You see Casey Mize on the injured list right now, which I know the Tigers have said that it's very mild and that they're more optimistic, but this is the same hamstring that put him on the injured list last year for 60 days. And we all know Casey Mize, the biggest sort of detriment to his career so far, and the biggest hindrance is the fact that he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And now that you're finally seeing it, you're finally seeing the 1-1 with the great stuff, with the splitter, look like he can join his teammate Tarek Skubal on the All-Star team. He's on the IL right now. So what seemed like a certainty that their pitching staff was going to be dominant and the best in baseball, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It's just sometimes in baseball, you have those bad outings, you have those bad stretches, and especially with Casey Mize being on the injured list, my concern level with the pitching staff as a whole is still relatively low, but I don't like some of the trends, that's all.
Look, man, there's a chipmunk in here now with us. We got the donuts and everything off to the side. I saw Chase looking. Hey.
No.
Oh, yeah, no. Look, no.
JB
thought it was a rat.
Yeah, JB was looking a little around, but it's a chipmunk, JB. Don't worry.
He's like, oh, point, like, what? No, look, he pulled up for the show, man. He was just, my man Flannel was over here preaching, though. But you're right. I think that's something that you do very, very well is you pay caution to things. Even if your opinion doesn't necessarily change, you make sure that you say, but these things do matter over here. And you're right. When you're talking about the injuries, when you see some of the performances get a little less consistent, I believe that what we saw with the Lions and going through the injuries and realizing that there are some ebbs and flows and some ups and downs, you realize these are things they have to go through. And for the Tigers, they're at this point where if they're going to prove to be a squad, prove to be that team that we're all denoting could be at the top of things. Hey, shout out Chipmunk friend. He's just over here now, front row seats, man. But if they're going to be that squad, they're going to have to be able to battle through adversity. These are things that every team deals with. This isn't necessarily like football where you wind up at the end of the season and you need your squad to really be healthy and you need to pace this thing through. Baseball's already a pretty much a sport that allows you the time to get your breaks, get your rest, get your rehab in and things of that nature. And these injuries aren't as significant or serious, and the consistencies, I expect there to be times where the pitching looks absolutely lights out, and then they're going to balance that with times where, you know what, they're not at their best, but it's not to that concerning level to me. And when you look at how these things are going, if they manage this the right way, post-trade deadline, I believe we're going to see a very healthy Detroit Tigers team, maybe with some added tweaks. So right now, if you have a team that's already above expectation, 2.5 games ahead of everybody in the Central and in the AL, I believe you give yourself that opportunity to say, you know what, we can be a little bit more sensitive with how we're going to respond to our players' injuries and how we're going to respond to our players' ups and downs. We can give them either a little bit more time to figure things out because we know those bats this year are going to pick them up. That's where I look at a player like a Jackson Jobe, and I'm like, in the past, you probably are sitting here trying to overcorrect or course correct in a more aggressive manner, but right now with the team that's finding ways to pick each other up and get through the adversity, it just puts me in this mode where I'm not as concerned this year as I was last year when the injury started to creep up.
Well, sure, and they've given themselves a enormous cushion. I mean, they're 26-15. They were 26-13.
Sounds so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. So even with the last two games being disappointing, they're 26-15. I want to clarify something though, because I think there's tiers, at least to me, and what I'm concerned about and what I'm not. And I'm going to rank them in terms of Jackson Jobe, Jack Flaherty, and, of course, Casey Mize. Jackson Jobe I'm not worried about at all because his ERA was inflated because really of one bad start. It was at Coors Field. I know the Rockies are historically awful, but Coors Field, as we all know, is probably still the number one hitter's park in Major League Baseball, although Philly and Cincinnati would have something to say about. But we all know Coors Field, I believe it's his first time ever pitching there. That's going to be tough. And the Tigers were able, as a team, were able to pick him up. So I'm not super concerned about that. I, for the most part, like what I've seen. When it comes to Jack Flaherty, it's been a little bit more consistent lately. As I said in the last segment, that his last 3 starts haven't been good. And in his last 3 starts, the Tigers have lost all of them. And with Jack Flaherty, one of the reasons why I was so excited for him to come back is because it looked like last year in the first half of the season before he got traded, he had regained the form that we saw from him in his early days with the Cardinals, where he looked dominant, his stuff looked great. It was arguably the best he's ever looked in his career, and we thought him, Chris Fetter, the whole pitching staff infrastructure, that was a match made in heaven. But when you look at Jack Flaherty's career as a whole outside of those couple dominant seasons in St. Louis, it's been very, very up and down. So I have a little bit of concern with whether or not last year, I'm not saying last year with the Tigers was a fugazi, but is he going to be the starter that has an ERA slightly over 4, going to be that 5th starter type of pitcher for this team, or is he going to go back to being Jack Flaherty that we knew and loved as of last year? We've seen a lot of good, but we've also seen some bad. It's the inconsistency of his career that gives me a little bit of concern. With Casey Mize, I think we'd all be lying a little bit if all of us looked at Casey Mize on the injured list and got into the fetal position a little bit, because Casey Mize has been an absolute revelation. When we talk about who's back on this team, we talk about Torque, we talk about Javi, but I don't know if anybody has really shined as bright in terms of being back as Casey Mize. I mean, he's tied for the American League in wins with 6. He has a 2.53 ERA. He's not just back to being a good pitcher. He's back to looking like a 1-1, like a maybe Cy Young caliber candidate, although I think his teammate is going to steal it from him. But the point is that Casey Mize has been absolutely lights out. And this team is not where they are without the heroics of Casey Mize. So the fact that he's even on the injured list, even though the Tigers don't seem too concerned, given his history, given how important he's been, I am a little bit concerned. Maybe I shouldn't be, but it's Casey Mize in the injured list. They go together like peanut butter and jelly, and I hate to say it.
Okay, and that's fair. That's fair. When you're talking about the long-term outlook, that's what I was going to ask you is what concerns you most about it? If it's one of those stints that we believe, you know what, it's just them being a little extra cautious, then cool. If it's one of those things that's like, oh, no, this is a repeat and it's going to happen again, that's where I can understand the level of concern, because you're right. He's underpinned a lot of this success. When you look at why these teams are saying that the Tigers are here to stay, it's not just Skubal and Riley Green they're talking about anymore. They're also talking about the other one of one on this squad from the pitching position, and that's Casey Mize and everything he's meant to the staff. Now all of a sudden you understand he's going to be hurt. We see with this news also comes the Tigers losing a series, dropping a couple games, in a series in which I thought that they could have and they should have gone in and handled their business. This was a handle your business series for them. We're not going to overlook that, despite the fact that we realized over the last still 2 weeks they've actually widened their lead. They just could have think about if they would have won a game or two. And we're sitting here right now talking about this Tigers team being up 3.5 games and putting the Rangers closer to 500 rather than allowing them to climb above it. Yeah. We'd be having a little bit different tune. But because these things kind of converge at the same point of Casey Mize, injured list, Jack Flaherty, some concerns and struggles, Jackson Jobe, kind of raising the eyebrows amongst fans, and then you drop a series, I do believe that, you know what, it is a little bit more of a fair conversation to question. I am more bullish, though. For just me, my gut feeling is that this is something that they've allowed themselves to be able to kind of have this extra concern because it is Casey Mize. Yeah. You probably want to make sure that guy is as right as can be because you want to take a step forward. It's what honestly inspired a lot of my belief in the Tigers this year. You have to believe in the internal growth. Why? Because we believe in the coaches. We believe in guys like Chris Fetter. That's why with Jackson Jobe and Flaherty and such, I'm like, I'm gonna give Fetter and what these guys have proven to be with him and the improvements we've seen them make and how they've been able to impact winning here in Detroit with him, I'm going to give that some more time, especially understanding how A.J. Hinch can manage a game to the benefit of his pitchers as well. But you're right. When you just start to think about the fact that, is this something that is just here now for Casey Mize or is this something that could pop up again? towards maybe the end of the season as the workload continues to increase, then, yeah, that's where a little bit of concern creeps in because you need him when you're talking about that next step. Not repeating the season of last year. I'm talking about you're talking about going in and giving yourself a real opportunity to make it to the ALCS, a real opportunity to win the AL Central, a real opportunity to finish the AL with the best record. When you're talking about that, you need Casey Mize right, period.
You do. And to be honest, we can talk about a lot of things with this team. Obviously, Tarek Skubal is at the top of mind with how well he's been pitching, is the overwhelming favorite to repeat as a Cy Young winner. The biggest reason, in my opinion, that the Tigers are not just good, but 10 games over 500 at the beginning of May is because, and I alluded to this briefly earlier, every single one, they have hit a 3-leg parlay on Casey Mize being back, Spencer Torkelson being back, and Javi Baez being back. And not just back to being good players. Like I said, Casey Mize is 6-0 with a 2, or is it 6-1 or 6-0? But whatever, 6 wins with a 2.52 ERA. Spencer Torkelson's OPS, I believe, is 874, and Javi Baez has a batting average of 300 right now. You could argue that every single one of them, if the season ended today, would have legitimate all-star bids.
And before the season,
so they're all back.
And before the season, though, that was the perfect red light, yellow light, green light. Green light on Skubal, yellow light on Torque, and absolutely out red light on Javi Baez. But they've all turned out green light, green light, green light. To be able to give this Tigers team not just a boost, like they're the best team in the AL right now.
Yeah.
They're a team that everybody now is having to like go and rewrite on a national scale whatever their plan was, however they were going to cover baseball teams in this first quarter. Because it's interesting to see some of the write-ups on MLB.com say, so the Tigers might be for real.
Yeah.
We looked into this. We thought it was just them eating up the Central, and no, it's not. It's them eating up everything. Literally, Tigers eat them up, and they're beating good teams at that. That, to me, is why I wanted to see them at least win this series against the Rangers. But the Tigers have been really good at bouncing back from series losses like this and going on some runs.
No, and for the record, I don't want to act like I'm out on the Tigers or anything like that. I still think that they're going to win the division. My prediction of 88 wins, I would probably bump that up just a tad because I don't think 88 is going to do it. I think 88 would probably get you a wild card team. I looked at Casey Mize being on the injured list had me just head in hands a little bit. And for the record, they don't believe as an organization that it's as bad as the same hamstring that he hurt last year that put him on the 60-day IL. I still think the Tigers will be fine. Even if guys like Torque and Baez fall off a little bit, Parker Meadows should be back. Matt Vierling's in AAA right now hitting nukes. That actually did happen. Colt Keith is regaining his form a little bit, although he struggled in the last couple of games. Riley Green looks like an all-star. I do think the Tigers will be fine. It's just this invincible pitching staff all of a sudden looks a little bit more mortal right now. That's all that I'm saying.
Yep.
But Tarek Skubal is anything but that's the trump card.
One of the good things, though, this year is that they do have the bats. If this was last year, we saw how much when the pitchers tanked, how much the Tigers tanked. Last season, they literally, until after the trade deadline, when they got back Kerry Bonds, this season rolled literally how the pitching went. And now you see the squad being able to really weather that storm a little bit better. And you see it show up. They're one of the more balanced teams in all of baseball, and it's the reason why they have one of those leading run differentials in all of baseball. I see the pitching is doing a little bit better than the bats in terms of runs allowed versus runs scoring. But overall, this is still one of your top teams at runs scored, one of your top teams at hits per game, runs per game. And that does give this Tigers team just a little bit more. So I get it. In terms of the expectation, I'm glad that you stated I would actually bump up what I believe from the beginning of the season, even with your concerns. But we're not just talking about, okay, is this team going to get a little bit better wins-wise? This Tigers team has entered the conversation that the Tigers have. Whether it's premature or not, the conversation for the Tigers right now is, can this team get to an ALCS? Can this team get to a World Series? And when you're talking about that, then it does get a little bit more, not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily even say concerning, but it makes you question just a little bit more. It makes you wonder and ponder a little bit more. Can they get this done if Casey Mize is not Casey Mize? We know this right now. they've had to rely on a lot of what not a lot of, even the most, look, Randall Smalls, there might be a couple that I'm missing who were very, 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 like they never jumped off the bandwagon as it relates to Spencer Torkelson. Everybody jumped off the bandwagon on Javi Baez. I'm not hearing it from anybody, nobody. Everybody did. So, yeah, that's where now, shout out to Cavassier Chase. Hey, you know what? A man of many, many hats. One of those hats is at the Detroit Zoo, which I respect a whole lot, man. My family and I, we go there a lot. He put out a little peace offering for the chipmunks. So shout out to Cavassier.
Well, he climbed up on the table. He was like literally about to open the box of donuts, and then I told JB, I was like, oh, we better make
save the donuts for the golfers too, man.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out, man. Shout out. But that's where, when you're talking about those expectations on the high end, to be able to parse it, that's where I do believe. That's where our minds are at. Their expectations. It's like fans now, right? We had to do this with the Lions. How do we become fans of a team and how we process this stuff of a team with Super Bowl expectations? The Tigers now, the reason why I do believe that there is a conversation for the concern and worry is not because of, it's a game-by-game thing for this long season. No, we get that. You believe they're going to be there in the end.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how high are they going to be when you get there. Shout out Matt Pax and Loom.
Shout out Matt Pax and Loom, and I just want to say to L in the chat, your name is very, very appropriate because you are an L.
Come on. Flannel's back. He's back.
And stare at this face and love it and marinate in it.
Oh,
stare at it. Love it. Hey, shout out Rando Smalls. Shout out Kool-Aid. Got my Torque jersey yesterday, as you should. He
never jumped off the bandwagon.
No, he has.
He can say whatever he wants about Spencer Torque.
Absolutely, because I probably said some very rude things to Rando Smalls in the offseason, which I do apologize for. And Torque has been fantastic. Like, he's still got that OPS in the high 800s, and that is more than great, especially for what we thought Spencer Torkelson would be. Shout out to him. I have no complaints about Spencer Torkelson, none whatsoever.
Yeah, man. This Tigers team, it's interesting to see them getting the contributions from the guys that you've wanted for so long. And I think that it's a testament to not just the makeup of the squad around them, but also the coaching and the development. They're getting it right. That's been the precipice for all these teams getting it right. It's been what they've done with the coaches, what they've done with the front office, and those two being able to work together. It doesn't feel like it's like a canyon between those two anymore, or like there's some type of rift or some difference in philosophy between our coaches and our GMs. I was just laughing the other day looking at Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell wearing the shirts of each other. Like, that type of stuff is so dope. Looking at Trajan Langdon and J.B. Bickerstaff, and they're like homies. You know, Dwayne Casey coming in, and they're all just chilling, and they're like, they're cool with each other. You're talking about your pro advanced scout, your head coach, and your president of basketball operations. These guys are all together. Now, when you look at the Tigers, I like what I see out of A.J. Hinch and Harris and Feder, and understand that these guys are tight-knit, and they're trusting them. You know, they're trusting in Feder to come in and elevate this pitching staff and not just be a guy who can maintain the pitching staff. And that's where we're seeing a lot of this growth, and I do believe that the health of these organizations from that standpoint ultimately is something that makes me very, very confident, at least with the Tigers this season. I do believe that they have so much more around them that's going to help elevate them above a lot of that adversity, injuries, inconsistencies.
Hey, speaking of which, though, speaking of elevating, the Detroit Lions. Let's TLB a little bit when we get back, because they did have their rookie minicamp, and I think it's a fun discussion to talk about the rookies. Will they contribute in year one? What's their outlook to the future? Do they need to contribute in year one? Find out some of the answers to that questions when we get back. But first, I have to tell you about Mad Packs. It is a phenomenal cannabis product. I wouldn't know myself, but I hear about people who do partake at the network. They just love it. They think it's the best. Boom shakalaka. Boom shakalaka is cannabis-infused resin. Is that what it's called? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Hey, shout out. Mad Packs.
Walk into any Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men today. Open 7 days a week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy precision haircut, scalp massage, hot leather neck shave, and hot towel treatment from one of our talented stylists. Step up your game this season and take advantage of our $20 haircut special. Scan the QR code and get your coupon today. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, the ultimate haircut experience. Open 7 days a week. Walk-ins always welcome. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. It's wicked awesome.
Big injuries, big news. Twice a week, Dr. Jeff Pierce from Michigan Sports and Spine joins Woodward Sports Network for the Injury Insider Report. Big D Energy Tuesdays at noon, and Ermanni and Edwards with Maz Thursdays at 3:30. Get expert analysis and in-depth breakdowns on the latest sports injuries from the man trusted by top athletes in the community, like D-Mac. Whether it's the Lions, Pistons, Tigers, or Red Wings, Dr. Pierce talks us through it all. Don't miss the Injury Insider Report with Dr. Jeff Pierce, your go-to source for understanding the impact of injuries on the games and players we love. Only on Woodward Sports Network. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to MichiganSportsandSpine.com to see if Dr. Jeff Pierce can help you. We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
How do people feel about getting a Planet Fitness membership for $15 a month? How do they like working out in a clean and spacious gym that's filled with equipment for every workout? And how about free fitness training in the judgment-free zone that leaves them feeling energized all day long? Join Planet Fitness today with the free PF app online or in club and start getting that big fitness energy for $15 a month.
The most talked about Detroit media by other Detroit media, and we love it. It's the Woodward Sports Network.
A Loom is fantastic. It's a great cannabis product. And like I said, I don't partake, but everybody at the network who does seems to love it, think that it's great. You can get a 30% off when you use the code LOOM30, I believe, on your first purchase. Have some Loom today.
What up, though, people? Welcome back. It is Wake Up Woodward. It's your boy Brandon, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential pistol reporter and writer for the network. We got Flannel Sam, the vet of the squad, the vet of the network, all sports knower, Red Wings correspondent. We also got Kavasi Chase in the building. JB Smooth, Godfather Stick is in the building, running around here handling things. And shout out to the rest of our brothers, that dude Justin, KG, and Matthew Broder. And I saw what L put, man. It's interesting because, you know, this show, man, we've given away the most merch of any show in the history of Woodward Sports. Do you realize that? The most merch. The most giveaways, too.
Yep.
You know, I appreciate what we're able to do to be able to enrich our audience, not just with the show, not just with the passion of our sports team, not just with even credentialed coverage, but also making sure that they go away with something in their hands, too. So shout out to you, L. Hey, L, hit me up. Kool-Aid at WoodwardSports.com. You get a T-shirt today,
I
man.
might veto that. But hey, I just love the whole, like,
We'll let Flannel design the T-shirt.
I'm not showing hate, but get the fuck off the desk, guys. That's basically what he said. And that's fine. That's fine. Thank you for your patronage. But don't be like, oh, it's not hate. But get off the desk. Get fired, you two. Come on. That's what he said.
Shout out to L, man. Shout out to L. John F. and Lord, hey, I see you, man. We're going through the list. You're on the way up. That's what happens when we have a lot of these giveaways. And you know what? I think we do have one more that I think we might have to give away from a previous show. We forgot to do that, JB Smooth. So end of the show, we'll definitely handle that. But we got a TLB. Yes. Hey, you want to tell the people what that stands for, Mr. Flannel Sam?
Talk Lions. Talk Lions, bitch.
And look, rookie minicamp has opened up this week, and this has been the question that has been kind of pondering around up top in the head. And I heard Terry Foster, Matthew Broder, Sean Belegian, that dude Justin, Willie B on the Lions Weekly Update show. They talked about it as well. Impact rookies. How many rookies from this draft class are we expecting to be impacts? And I believe another question is, how many do they need to be impact players? They got some needs on this team,
how many
right?
do they need? We'll see about. But I think two in particular have a golden opportunity to really put their stamp on this team right away. Of course, number one is Tyleik Williams. He's the first-round draft pick. He's the one that, you know, gets the fifth-year option. Brad Holmes was comfortable enough to spend first-round capital on him. And there's also an opportunity with Aleem McNeil being out for who knows how many weeks at the beginning of the season. That's going to be a big void, but Tyleik Williams can go a long way in helping to fill that void if he does live up to his first-round potential in year one. Do I think it's going to happen? I really can't say either way, but Tyreek Williams has that opportunity. Same with Tate Ratledge. And I know that I'm cheating a little bit by going by their first and their second round pick, but they're first and second round picks for a reason. And we all know that Graham Glasgow let's just call a spade. Graham Glasgow was the weak link on this offense. This offense was so immaculately good. And even on the offensive line, you had Panay, you had Frank Ragnow, you had Decker, you had Kevin Zeitler. The weak link was Graham Glasgow. And I'm not saying that he's never played well or that he didn't play well in 2023, but looking ahead, I could see Tate Ratledge starting week one. I know that when we were talking about players that I wanted the Lions to draft, Tate Ratledge was somebody who really grew on me over, as April went along and right up until the draft process, and I predicted that Tate Ratledge would start for this team day one. If Tate Ratledge is starting and Tyreek Williams is giving you good snaps with Aleem being out on a higher level and still giving you good snaps at a more rotational level when Aleem does get back, I think that that's actually going to go a pretty long way in this Lions team actually achieving the ultimate goal of winning the Super Bowl, because I do think you need at least a couple of rookies to make an impact this year.
Yeah, I definitely do, and that's where the ones at the top, Tyreek Williams and Tate Ratledge, I expect those guys to be more than just kind of depth pieces, but be guys that are contributing within the regular rotation. But then there is this question of Isaac Tesla, somebody that they invested in, somebody that they gave up some capital for, somebody that supposedly was a hot topic for other teams. And if the Lions did not go and do this, the other squads were going to go and get their wide receiver. Do you do that for a guy that you're not expecting to be an impact player this year, or a guy that you're expecting to potentially to go out there and compete for that wide receiver 3 spot? And that's one of the questions for me, because I do look at Hassanen and I look at Tesla, and I do believe that they are players that have an opportunity to, depending on how you define impact, to be able to have an impact in year one. Tesla is somebody I do believe has the potential to hit the ground running more than we think. Sure hand guy, speed, can run the routes pretty crisp. There are some things to clean up with the technique. But you're putting him with a quarterback in Jared Goff, who's really good with the timing routes, which is something that we've seen him be able to excel at, Tesla. Only thing is he hasn't been able to play with that many accurate quarterbacks, that's what I'm saying. At the NFL level, we understand that the speed is going to go up, the level of hits are going to go up, and he's going to have to prove to be able to play through that. But in terms of the just base skill set, the way this offense operates, the way they've been able to plug in a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 4, and these guys go out there and contribute to some degrees, I am expecting Tesla to go out there and be somewhat of an impact player in year one.
With Isaac Tesla, to me, it was the ultimate luxury pick in terms for this year, or even looking at the future, because when you look at this Lions offense as currently constructed, if Isaac Tesla was never even a part of it, if, let's say, the Lions didn't draft him in a hypothetical world, we're still looking at this offense as potentially, at its ceiling, the best in the NFL. You've got one ball. You're going to give a lot of targets to Amon-Ra, to J-Mo, to Laporta, obviously the best running back duo in the NFL. Tim Patrick with a full season, maybe, that would be interesting. But with Isaac Tesla, I think the impact that he makes is dependent on the health of the other weapons. We all know Tim Patrick missed pretty much all of 2022 and 2023 due to injury. If Tim Patrick goes down, Isaac Tesla, he might be needed to actually be that wide receiver 3. If Amon-Ra or J-Mo go down for any time, obviously Isaac Tesla will be a bigger part of this offense. But even if everybody is healthy, it wouldn't shock me if Tesla gets some snaps, if he makes a couple of big plays, because we know he's got that explosive ability or potential that wasn't entirely tapped into at Arkansas. So I think this year Isaac Tesla's impact in terms of being like an impact rookie year one is dependent on the health of the rest of the offense.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to him being a guy, though, that can go out there and be dependent on if you need for – effectively a few hundred yards, 300-400 yards, be a dependable guy. Like we saw Jameson Williams be just before his ascension. I do think that Tesla's coming in with a much better foundation we already know the game-breaking and next-level talent of Jamison Williams, so I'm not comparing it that way. But just from a standpoint of a rookie, being able to come in, and he's a workhorse. We know that he's a guy that has somewhat ties to here as well. And so this is something that I do believe is especially when you hear him speak, too. When you hear the way he was like, thank you, Mrs. Ford. That, to me, man, you could tell that this is something that's a little bit more for Tulsa. And y'all know about Kool-Aid. That type of stuff matters to me. We've seen it play huge roles. We talk about it with the Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, on the top end. But with the Tulsa, the ability to go out there and make a name for yourself, to be able to help push this Lions team over the edge from an offensive standpoint, I'm expecting him to go out there and compete for wide receiver 3. And I like Tim Patrick a lot. I do. But with the investments given, I get what you're saying, because Brad Holmes has talked about it, going out there and getting a need before the need has actually revealed itself, which is what they did with Jamison Williams. He wasn't necessarily need when they took him, but we obviously see right now they need JMO. Yeah. But Tesla is going to be somebody that adds a different splash to this offense. And we've seen it with other teams. I know there's some people out there, and I'm seeing it in the chat as well. I'm going to ask you, chat family. I'm going to read some of these comments, but chat family, put in the chat who you guys believe are going to be those impact rookies this year. So a lot of people I know are going to talk about Tyleik Williams. A lot of people are going to talk about Tate Ratledge. But I want to see what people are believing about Brad Holmes and what you need to see to consider this, at least this portion of it, a draft well cooked. But I'm seeing a lot of people. A-Diz for one. He said Tesla, Lovett, Raymond. And there's a lot of love going on out there, for lack of a better word. I see Mike G. Vanillatron looking good in camp. Zupo Cardia, Tesla won't get minutes over Tim.
Probably not.
He probably won't. I'm being fair, but I still want him to be, with everything they invested, I still want him to be a receiver that we look at and say, you know what? He's going out there and competing. Sure. He's going out there and earning minutes. He's going out there and making Tim Patrick have to continue to perform at a wide receiver 3 level. That's what I want to see out of Tesla.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to ask this question is that you may think, when you've got a roster that is as good as the Lions, that rookies contributing in year one isn't as imperative as in previous years. And to some extent, you're right. But when you look at Super Bowl teams of even the past couple of years, impact rookies are part of what has put all of them over the top. And I've got a couple of examples. We all know last year, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Do the Eagles win the Super Bowl without them? Absolutely not. Even in 2023 with Rashee Rice, he was the #1 wide receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs. He was second on the team in both regular season receiving yards and playoff receiving yards after some guy you may have heard of named Travis Kelce. And he, as a rookie in 2022 with the Chiefs, you had Trent McDuffie. You had George Karlaftis be second on the team in sacks after a guy you might have heard of named Chris Jones. You had Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson combined for all 3 of the Chiefs' playoff interceptions. And, of course, you had Isaiah Pacheco, who was the leading rusher on the team. The 2020 Buccaneers, Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. How do you like that for your first couple of draft picks? That was a heck of a draft by that team, but those were impact rookies immediately. Even the 2019 Chiefs, even though when you look at the names, they don't stick out as much as like the DeJeans and the Quinyon Mitchells and the Trent McDuffies, but Mecole Hardman had more touchdown catches that year than Travis Kelce did. He was 21 yards per catch. He had a kickoff return touchdown. Juan Thornhill was second on the team in interceptions with 3 and had the only pick 6 on the team. And even the 2018 Patriots. I know I'm going back, but I'm showing how much of a trend that this is. Sony Michel, as a rookie, was the leading rusher on the team in the regular season for the Patriots. And he had 336 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns in 3 playoff games, was dominant in that playoffs. The point is that I think with this Detroit Lions team, whether or not 1 or 2 or more of these Lions are impact rookies could make a much bigger difference than you think. We know that we want Tate Ratledge of this year. If he goes in and is better than what Graham Glasgow was last year, that is a huge win. If Tyleik Williams is a day 1 starter or a heavy rotational piece with guys like Levi O and Reeder and Roy Lopez, and continues to be that and makes plays and, eats up space, makes a couple TFLs, maybe gets some pressures and sacks, that's impact. And I think the Lions are going to need that. I haven't even mentioned Miles Frazier or Ahmad Hassanin yet because it's hard for me to put too high of expectations on 5th or 6th round picks. But as I said before in the show we did right after the draft happened, Miles Frazier and Ahmed Hassanin did special things in college. Miles Frazier didn't allow a sack his last year at LSU, and Hassanin had more than 20 sacks in his last 2 seasons at Boise State. You never know, but I do think a couple Lions rookies will have to make a major impact for the Lions to reach the ultimate goal.
And I'm glad you said that. I see John Afalora said too. He put the Egyptian magician, and that's one who, if they didn't address really edge, they went in house with everything, brought those guys back. They still have some options if they want to take a flyer on some of the players available. Still in free agency. I know that there's some Zadarius Smith love out there from a lot of the fan base. But that, to me, is what makes Hassanin so much more intriguing and interesting is that he's a position of need. So he's going to have an opportunity, especially when you consider that the defensive line is not starting off healthy. Even though we believe that and the doctors are saying that Aiden Hutchinson will be back and ready for game 1, I still believe that you don't get in game shape except for playing in games. And that sometimes comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to be able to find and catch that rhythm. And that's sometimes for players that have an entire offseason to just work out on their weaknesses and get stronger on their strengths, not having to rehab. That's where, I do believe that Brad Holmes, low-key, really, really, really cooked up in this draft. But you're right. The health of this team and this organization, the fact that they no longer have to depend on their 4th-round wide receiver to be the number 1 wide receiver, that shows exactly that this squad is in a position where these young players can actually get the development, the growth, the time, and the reps that they need without overextending, overexerting, or putting them in positions to where they have to play through their mistakes rather than being able to sit and learn and look at what the other players they've drafted. This is the way you do it. So Tesla, look, who cares about what people are saying your ceiling is? Because you know who else didn't care about what people said their ceiling was? Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was a lot of people who passed on him, including the Lions, for a couple of rounds. But when Brad Holmes strikes, he strikes. And I don't know. There's something about Tesla and Hassanin and the just the hunger, the fight, that motor, the mentality that they want to go out there and prove everybody wrong. And, yes, you're going to hear that from all of your draft picks. But when we know about Brad Holmes, guys, is that more times than not, he actually identifies the guys who put that talk to walk and not just continue to just blab about it. His guys are usually the ones that go out there and are not just barking, but they're also, like you said, biting off the kneecap and then taking a chunk out the butt. And that's what I like about these players here, and that's what I do believe gives them an opportunity beyond their talent, beyond kind of some positions of need, because I know J.B. Smoove, he was one of the ones as well who was like, maybe they do need to look at wide receiver in this draft. It was something that I pondered early on, too. Do they need to go and just add something to that room? Because they are, the last few years, it's been plug and play at that wide receiver 3. I do believe the need for wide receiver 3 in the future has been solved with the Tesla pick.
Sure.
And I do believe, at least for this year, he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Tim Patrick. And this overall, the wide receiver room, the playmakers, the skill position guys, they're going to be better for it.
Oh, yeah. And with Isaac Tesla in particular, Tim Patrick's on a 1-year contract. So moving forward, that he's somebody that the Lions look at as being one of the guys. I see a lot of different
comments.
I see a lot of comments in the chat.
Hey,
I believe even Dante151, Dan Jackson, he said it's a given with Williams and Ratledge, and I hope so. And he said, I'm on the Dan Jackson and Ahmad Hassanin train. I'll be honest.
Talk to me.
I'll be honest. I would be shocked if Dan Jackson makes the team. And that's no disrespect. He's a 7th-round pick. I don't really pay much mind to Dan Jackson.
Hassanin, man. That's the one for me.
But that's the thing. With Ahmad Hassanin, we have to – what's a successful season for him? Because I'm not going to put 10 sacks as a 6th-round rookie on him, and I think that there's a snowball's chance in hell that it happens with him as a rookie. But if he gets 3 or 4, can be decent against the run, can set the edge, that's a successful season for a 6th-round pick. And especially if he's top 5 on the teams in sacks – that's the type of impact that I'm talking about from a rookie that rookies on previous Super Bowl teams have made. Be one of the best on your team at something. And do I necessarily expect that from Ahmad Hassanin? I hope the Lions still do more at the edge rusher position. But if he gets 3 or 4 sacks and is just a decent all-around edge, that's a successful rookie season for a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, and I want to see these guys. When we saw Malcolm Rodriguez step on the field, it wasn't that the stats were going to blow you away because of the reps that he was going to or not get, but it was about the fact that every single play you understood this guy is going 150 freaking %, and he's going to run through your face if you don't do something about it. That's what I want to see from a guy like Hassanen. When you step on that field and you get that opportunity, go out there and just mash. Be the most physical, be the meanest, be the nastiest, play up to the whistle. We won't say through it because the league cries. We've already seen that. They're already crying about the Lions playing to the whistle.
Through to some extent.
Through to some extent.
No penalties.
Yeah, thank you for putting that right, because we got the Bears down the road crying about it. But that's what you got to see from these guys. When you're talking about maximizing who you are as a depth and as a role piece to be able to bolster a squad that has Super Bowl expectations, but it also has been undermined by injuries, this is where these guys have to be ready. I don't think Brad Holmes is drafting players without the thought now of these guys have to be ready if they're called upon this year. The next man up mentality is something they have to have and they have to perform. And these picks, to me, they're very unique picks. They're very intriguing picks to me because they're at positions that I believe they needed to shore up. There are positions that could, during the course of the season, knock on wood, find themselves needing a little extra reinforcement. Now you got some guys who are going to be able to learn in some really, really, really good rooms. Like we're going to talk later on about the wide receiver rooms. Yeah. We understand what national media is starting to rank our wide receiver room in. It's a good one for Tulsa to be in. We already understand about this defensive line, the players that are there. It's a good room for Hassanen to be in.
I'm glad you mentioned Hassanen because I see a couple of chats back-to-back that are kind of both ends of the spectrum. John effing Lord, how about 4.5 sacks and 10 tackles for loss? If Ahmed Hassanen does that, that's insane. As a 6th-round rookie, I would be like doing backflips. But then the next one, marked Royal, Ahmed is playing special teams. That's it. If you were to give me my prediction, I think it's going to be somewhere maybe in between. But
because I did get I see Jeffrey Best. What about Lopez? We picked him up for free agency from the Cardinals. I know he was brought in to be able to shore up some depth.
Sure. And him and Levi, Reeder, Tyleek, they're going to have to hold it down when Aleem is out. That's a pretty Mekhi Wingo even. That's a good rotation. I think there's a chance Tyleek Williams has a golden opportunity to really make his mark on this team right away and have a damn good rookie season because he is needed more than maybe even I realized at the time he was drafted.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Let's take a quick one, say what up, dog, to some of our friends and get back in TLB just a little bit more because obviously the impact of the rookies and what they can do for the Detroit Lions, it's about what they're going to do this season. And you know what? Some people aren't necessarily that bullish on who the Detroit Lions are going to be in the NFC.
Interesting. I can't wait to discuss that. And before we go, I have to read this one from L. To be honest, this is the first year I'd even consider judging Broderick Martin. He was drafted as a project. Who the F grades a project 2 years in? So, L, you're a Broderick Martin believer. That shows your intelligence. That's all I got to say.
I love Brad Holmes. My man's not 100%, but he doesn't miss often. But Broderick Martin is not the hill I'm going to
Yeah, because you can't draft a guy like that, even with trading up to get him. Way overreaching for a guy who has contributed less to this Detroit Lions team than I have in the last couple of years. And I've contributed nothing. So whether or not he's a project or not, that was a bad pick. And that's okay. That's okay. Just the fact that you basically called for me in Kool-Aid's head and then were a Broderick Martin defender, that shows who you are, man. Not good. Not good. Your mother should have swallowed. Anywho, Mad Packs.
JB Smooth is over there besides himself right now.
Mad Packs.
Yesterday was Mother's Day.
Yes, it was. And, L, you probably make your mother wish she wasn't one. Okay. Boom shakalaka. Boom shakalaka is a resin-infused cannabis product that we should all be doing, except for the people at the desk that don't partake. But everybody who does says that it's great and are just people come in, haven't taken it, done it, and just are on the moon. Mad Packs.
What up, though?
Hey, Tony, what's up, bro?
Same circus, different clowns.
For sure. You want the usual, the big zip?
You know me too well.
I threw a little something extra in there for your ma.
Oh,
Hope
man.
she's doing all right.
Ay, guy, sei un santo. You're a saint.
All right, buddy, we'll see you next time, okay?
Grazie.
No one gives away more cash and prizes than Woodward Sports. You don't believe us? Here's our latest $10,000 winner.
You know, you guys posted, hey, if you guess all this stuff right, we'll give it's $10,000. I'm like, okay, well, why the hell not?
And the winning doesn't stop there. How about our Outkick Your Coverage winner?
How do you think you won? We got Tully, everybody. This guy's got a hot girl.
Bigger prizes, bigger giveaways, cash, merch, tickets, and more. All from the biggest sports network in Detroit. No one does it bigger and better than Woodward Sports. Make sure you're following, liking, subscribing on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube for your chances to share in the winning. From Detroit's #1 sports network, Woodward Sports.
How do people feel about getting a Planet Fitness membership for $15 a month? How do they like working out in a clean and spacious gym that's filled with equipment for every workout? And how about free fitness training in the judgment-free zone that leaves them feeling energized all day long? Join Planet Fitness today with the free PF app, online or in club, and start getting that big fitness energy for $15 a month.
Big injuries, big news. Twice a week, Dr. Jeff Pierce from Michigan Sports and Spine joins Woodward Sports Network for the Injury Insider Report. Big D Energy Tuesdays at noon, and Ermanni and Edwards with Maz Thursdays at 3:30. Get expert analysis and in-depth breakdowns on the latest sports injuries from the man trusted by top athletes in the community, like D-Mac. Whether it's the Lions, Pistons, Tigers, or Red Wings, Dr. Pierce talks us through it all. Don't miss the Injury Insider Report with Dr. Jeff Pierce, your go-to source for understanding the impact of injuries on the games and players we love. Only on Woodward Sports Network. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to MichiganSportsandSpine.com to see if Dr. Jeff Pierce can help you.
Loom is a phenomenal cannabis product that people like Justin and Chase and JB, they know all about, and I just take their word for it because they are trustworthy guys, and everybody at the network seems to love it. They're doing great. Woodward Sports chose to partner with them, so they are friends of mine. And you can get 30% off your first purchase with just if you do the promo code LOOM30. It is Loom Cannabis.
What up, though, people? Welcome back. It's Wake Up Woodward. We're live at Edgewood Country Club. It's a beautiful day in the great state of Pure, Michigan. It's your boy Brandon Dan, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential pistol reporter and writer for the network. Flannel Sam, vet of the squad, vet of the network, Red Wings correspondent. Crash Out Sam is back, man.
Hey.
But I know we got some things in the chat that you're going to get to, but just real quick, in advance of our Pistons segment a little bit later, Giannis's future is in question. Breaking news, the two-time NBA MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo has not made any firm decisions, but for the first time in his career, he is open-minded about whether his best fit is to remain in Milwaukee or playing elsewhere via Shams.
Interesting.
Get him out of the Central. I mean, unless you want to get him to Detroit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go to the West or Detroit. But Greg, 2025, $9.99 Super Chat. Donuts on me, guys. Thank you so much, my man. Always
shout out to the people.
Shout out Greg.
Yeah, shout out Greg. He's one of the more consistent people in the chat. So appreciate you,
Greg's
man.
the man.
Shout out to Greg, man.
517, represent.
And you know what? We got to TLB a little bit more here because the national narrative after the draft, and that was one of the things we said. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions after the draft. Let's talk about them after Brad Holmes has had the opportunity to do some things in free agency to address some of the needs. And we came away with, okay, he did some things. He shored up some strengths. We can see at least roadmap-wise why he selected some of these players. They're probably going to come into prominence maybe a year from now, a couple years from now, while they will still contribute somewhat today. But there are some people out there who don't believe they've done enough this year to be the clear-cut #1 team in the NFC. And I get that because you got the Eagles coming off of a Super Bowl and you lost to the upstart Commanders. And some of that question, though, is surrounding some changes that the Detroit Lions made, and I'm wondering if we are underestimating them or not. And this is from via Good Morning Football. JB Smooth, if you could play that first one where they're talking about the loss of the coordinators.
Isaiah, where do you stand right now with the Lions within their division, within the NFC, within the landscape of the NFL?
I still have the Lions at the top. But
the NFC?
Well, no.
You're going to say that to BG's
No,
face?
not
okay.
the NFC. No, but of their division. But the Lions, I think right now, everybody's just uncertain. Everybody knows the talent, and everybody knows what they're capable of. We know how good Jared Goff has been. We know how good the receiving core has been. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. We know what those guys are doing in the backfield. We know what this defense is capable of. We're waiting to see what Aiden Hutchinson is going to do when he comes back. We're waiting for a lot of things, but we're also waiting to see how is their offense going to look? How is their defense going to look? They lost, arguably the best offensive coordinator in the league, and Ben Johnson. They lost arguably the best D coordinator in the league, and Aaron Glenn. When you lose that caliber of coordinators and coaches, those guys that are responsible for everything that is happening on their respective sides of the field, you have question marks in regards to how their talent on the roster is going to show up again. You can't rest your head on what's happened in the past because the past has been attached to those individuals.
Hey, Isaiah, you hitting it right, spot on. Okay. That's what happened to us in 23. We lost all those coaches. We lost our coordinators. We ended up getting 2 new ones coming in.
All right. So, look, man, there's a whole lot there with those comments. Shout out to Good Morning Football. They're generally a show that is very, very, very bullish on the Detroit Lions. But you're going into year 3 now of supposed Super Bowl expectations. And one of the things that they have a question about is the coordinators. They believe that we are, and you guys heard it, that we are underestimating them. And it's interesting. Hey, how do you think the Lions are going to be? Yeah, I think they're going to win the NFC North. She didn't hear it. She said, the NFC? You said, oh, no. It was crazy to see that reaction because it's like, whoa. Is this still not the team that went 15-2 despite all the injuries last year? Is this still not the team that showed that they can really overcome a lot of different adversity? These 2 coordinators, I get the reason to say, hey, let's take a deeper look, but to say that those coordinators, and this is just my opinion, are going to be the reason why you can't really make a serious point or serious case right now about them being one of those top teams in the NFC, I think is overblown more than us underestimating it.
Interesting.
They've been, to me personally, when you talk about you can't rely on the past, they've been here. Calvin Shepard has been here. He's been groomed for this. We knew he was next in line for a few years. He's been here in the trenches. He knows how things goes, and the differences is going to be, I believe, the decisions these people make, the nuances and the flair that they put onto how their defenses, and even on the offensive side with the John Morton, how they execute ultimately Dan Campbell's overall game plan. It seems like in all of this conversation, Dan Campbell is the one that just gets forgotten about. I don't believe this team or who he is going to let this squad crater with the, just due to them changing the coordinators.
I mean, the question is, when it comes to how good the Lions were despite the injuries last year, how much did that have to do with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? And for the record, even though like Ben Johnson is he who should not be named right now, I will still admit that last year I was calling him the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. And I believe that he still was in terms of offensive coordinator, not offensive mind, in terms of offensive coordinator. He had a couple of bad moments in the playoff game, which I don't think was the costliest thing, but he certainly lost his head a little bit a couple of times. But I'm not going to discount what he did. He was great. Same with Aaron Glenn. I think between the 2 of them, you had one of the best coordinator duos in the NFL. You could argue the Eagles one ended up being a little bit better, but at the end of the day, the Lions had a damn good group of coordinators, and now they're gone. They've both gotten head coaching jobs, which that's what good coordinators usually do. I don't think that we can just discount that as a whole. But one thing that you mentioned, Dan Campbell, I will say with the offense, they're just too talented to fail. And what is failure for?
Thank you.
Right, and for the record, I don't think anybody's expecting them to be a bad offense, but I still think once they get it cooking, they're going to be, at worst, a top 3 to 5 offense with the potential to be 1.
But do you turn your nose up instantly when you say, okay, who are the Lions in NFC North? You're going to instantly say they should win the division.
Yeah,
but when I say who are the Lions in NFC, do you instantly, no. Is it like, because to me, it was almost as if it's disgusting to think about the Lions in this type of a rarefied era in the NFC. And I'm like, wait, guys, They're getting better from a year ago. But obviously they're going to continue. He said this. We know about the players. We know about the talent. We know about this. We know about the running backs. Those coordinators. He's putting a lot of stock in the coordinators being the reason why you have to question the Lions as a top 1, 2, or 3 team in the NFC.
Well, that's what he used. A lot of tone, I will say that. a lot of tone. Shout out Neil Rule. So I wish he would have really clarified what he meant, because if you don't want to call the Lions the favorites in the NFC, we can't blame you for that.
I get it. I can understand it.
You can't. The Eagles are going to be strong. The Commanders are going to be strong. The division's going to be good. I'm high on the Rams personally, but we'll see with all of that. But
Rams are a sleeper for real.
It just it depends. He used a lot of tone. I don't think there's any problem with not picking the Lions to win the NFC, but they have a chance. I understand that losing your coordinators and bringing new ones in, even with talented teams, can be a bit of a wild card, because it isn't about is John Morton competent or is Kelvin Shepherd competent. They've got to do enough to get the Lions over the top. Can they? I'm honestly more confident in Kelvin Shepherd than John Morton personally, but this is a very, very talented team. And if this defense is healthy, if they add maybe one more piece on the defensive line, the edge rusher position in particular, I might pick them to win the Super Bowl, even though I can't blame you right now if you don't.
I see Big Con 51 in the chat. He says the Lions knew for 3 years that AG and Benedict Johnson were going to leave. You think they weren't training their successors in that time? Defense will have no missteps. And this is where, when they first lost Ben Johnson, the one thing that we heard from even national people instantly was, whoa, guys, hold on for a second, which is interesting to hear these comments now. But initially it was, hold on for a second. Ben Johnson has just been running Dan Campbell's offense. This is Dan Campbell's blueprint that hails from the Sean Payton coaching tree. And so we understand that there's going to be a lot of similarities here. There's going to be a lot of familiarity here for these players that's already been in this system. And we also know who was one of the ones that helped to lay the foundation and the groundwork here, the terminology here. Dan Campbell credited John Morton. So when you're talking about you can't depend on the past, because these guys are new. Well, these guys aren't necessarily new. I agree with Big Con 51. Kelvin Shepherd has been the guy that we all knew was going to be the guy next up. And that's what's interesting, too. JB Smooth, you have that graphic that I sent earlier of Kelvin Shepherd? Because I really like how Kelvin Shepherd, he keeps his ears to the ground on all of the different comments. People who are talking good or bad about Campbell or any of these coaches or these players, and it's cool to see him interact with the posts that go up. And he was one of the guys that did interact positively with a post of Agnew talking about the type of dog that in command that that a Kelvin Shepherd brings to the room. And that, to me, matters. I do believe that the national narrative, when you're talking about Rod Beard telling us, hey, look, a lot of these guys aren't really clued into what's going on here. This is where I do appreciate, you talking about Steve Spagnuolo talking about Kelvin Shepherd and talking about this guy was a coach before he was ever a coach. This guy was getting the rooms together. He was connecting all the rooms on defense as a linebacker. He was teaching people the terminology. He was telling other players where they're supposed to be, even if it wasn't his position. This is what he was doing as a player. Everybody knew, including the great coaches during that time, that Kelvin Shepherd was going to be that guy. And I'm so glad that we broke it down. I remember when I told you, like, yo, did you hear what Kev said about what Spagnuolo said about Kelvin Shepherd? You were like, for real?
Yeah,
you instantly like, send me that right now. We're talking about that tomorrow. Oh, you guys can walk on by. Good morning, too, by the way. Good morning. I like this, man. From Detroit Lions assistant GM Ray Agnew on Lions DC Kelvin Shepherd. He says he's demanding. The guy's a great coach. He makes his players better. Ooh. I like to hear that.
No, and
he shared that, by the way, on his story. Shout out Kelvin Shepherd.
Shout out Kelvin Shepherd. And I know we've talked about it before, and I don't want to belabor it too much, but you saw a lot of growth in the linebacker room with pretty much everybody. Derek Barnes wasn't great when he first got here. He became viable. He got himself a contract. Jack Campbell took a big leap from year 1 to year 2. Alex Anzalone played the best ball of his life with the Detroit Lions apart from his first year. Malcolm Rodriguez, 6th-round draft pick, was very good as a rookie. After getting less playing time in his second year, in his third year before the injury, he was really, really good. You saw growth all across that linebacker room. And hopefully, I know it's a different animal, it's a different responsibility. That's really what made me so comfortable with the Kelvin Shepard hire as the defensive coordinator, because as we know, as we've seen throughout history, it's the rite of passage. When you're a successful positional coach, you go on to be a coordinator. You usually don't have a ton of coordinator experience unless if it's at the collegiate level before you become one in the NFL.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson didn't, Aaron Glenn didn't. John Morton actually does have some. He was the Jets OC, I believe, in 2017, but this is a whole different offense that he's working with now. I can't guarantee you that
That's true.
Kelvin Shepard and John Morton are going to be as good as Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. That's a big ask, but under this organization with Dan Campbell as the head coach, they're certainly both, I think, set up for success. They're not set up for failure like, say, John Morton was in 2017.
Thank you for saying that. They're set up for success. The leaders that they have on the squad, they're not just talking about, okay, we have Jack Campbell ready. I mean, we have Alex Anzalone. We know he's a captain. He's a dog. They're also saying, no, Jack Campbell can also be a green dot out there. And then we talk about the best safeties in the league, the best safety tandem. Then on the offensive side, literally, from one backfield to the other backfield, the best running back duo tandem. Top 5 MVP candidate in Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell. Like, what you have in-house in terms of just the players you've drafted, man, you already have enough in terms of making sure that this thing is made for success. And did they go and get guys from outside? Did they go and just get some brand-new players, coaches? No, they didn't. They pulled from their own ecosystem, people who would understand the makeup, the players, the ideology, the terminology, what Dan Campbell expects too. It's different when you get a coordinator in here who moves at his own pace, at his own speed. And Sean Belegian was talking about this with some of the other regimes, that these coordinators will come in knowing what the Lions organization was and be like, no, I'm going to do me because if I'm going to get fired anyway, it's going to be on my terms. Now you have coordinators coming here saying, you know what, they're leaving here with better reputations than they had before they got. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn were elevated because of who Dan Campbell was. And I do believe that John Morton and Kelvin Shepard the same way. These are going to be guys that benefit from everything that Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and his organization have put together. And you need them to bring something to the table. You do need John Morton to be able to, as it relates to who Ben Johnson was with the explosive plays, is there some antithesis to that he's going to bring that does rely a little bit more on an emerging superstar in Jahmyr Gibbs? When you're looking at the defense, what is Kelvin Shepard going to do? Is he going to utilize those linebackers a little bit more at trying to bring pressure on the quarterback, especially since we know that the defensive line is going to be maybe a little bit of a work in progress to start the season. But I trust these guys because of their connection, their familiarity, the relationship with Dan Campbell, and the trust that he has in them. I do. I believe that they have proven themselves a lot more than at the beginning when they were bringing a couple guys in and they were trying to figure out what's going to be that right recipe. They've had a long time to identify if John Morton and Kelvin Shepard are those guys.
Yeah, then this is – time will tell, obviously. We're just telling you what we think. This is a very important season for this team. John Morton and Kelvin Shepard, although I'm certainly not out on them, I believe that they can both be really good. They have a lot of responsibility. This organization has a lot of responsibility. They've got expectations now to be Super Bowl or bust, which is the ultimate responsibility in the NFL. Let's see how they handle it. Let's see how they deal with so much talent that they have to work with. Offense better than even the defense, but they might not be done added to the defense. That's another story for another day.
They might not be done. And you want me to play Brandon Graham's comments as well on them? Because he's a little bit higher on the lines. He does believe it's right to question who the coordinators and such, but he's actually bullish on his hometown team.
Go ahead, JB.
Yeah, let's play that.
Are the best guys, and make sure that you have your guys to be able to play like you need them in this big moment. You go all season and you lose guys, and then now you need guys to step up that's behind them, and sometimes that's not enough. And I think that's what happened to Detroit. Detroit had a great roster coming out. Them guys were putting 50 on people early on.
The two rosters, they still have 2 roster spots open? Yeah. All right, we can do that later. Dope. I was just making sure. Oh, we are back. What up, though, man? What friends we got to hear from?
Hey, oh yeah, Mad Packs. Of course. Hey,
Let there be sound.
Let there be sound.
I hear it.
Hey, we got the other product hanging out over here, but Mad Packs is a resin-infused cannabis product. Boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka is the most hyped up one of them all, and of course, I love doing the read. So for all of our cannabis lovers out there, get you some Mad Packs.
How do people feel about getting a Planet Fitness membership for $15 a month? How do they like working out in a clean and spacious gym that's filled with equipment for every workout? And how about free fitness training in the judgment-free zone that leaves them feeling energized all day long?
Test.
Join Planet Fitness today with the free PF app online or in club and start getting that big fitness energy for $15 a month.
Big injuries, big news. Twice a week, Dr. Jeff Pierce from Michigan Sports and Spine joins Woodward Sports Network for the Injury Insider Report. Big D Energy Tuesdays at noon, and Ermanni and Edwards with Maz Thursdays at 3:30. Get expert analysis and in-depth breakdowns on the latest sports injuries from the man trusted by top athletes in the community, like D-Mac. Whether it's the Lions, Pistons, Tigers, or Red Wings, Dr. Pierce talks us through it all. Don't miss the Injury Insider Report with Dr. Jeff Pierce, your go-to source for understanding the impact of injuries on the games and players we love. Only on Woodward Sports Network. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to MichiganSportsandSpine.com to see if Dr. Jeff Pierce can help you.
Walk into any Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men today. Open 7 days a week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy precision haircut, scalp massage, hot leather neck shave, and hot towel treatment from one of our talented stylists. Step up your game this season and take advantage of our $20 haircut special. Scan the QR code and get your coupon today. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, the ultimate haircut experience. Open 7 days a week. Walk-ins always welcome. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. It's wicked awesome.
Hey, we got Loom. You know, all these drinks about. Interesting. Loom, great cannabis product for those who partake. You can get 30% off your first purchase if you use the promo code LOOM30. It is Loom Cannabis.
What up, though, people? We are back in this Wake Up Woodward. The golfers are getting, hey, look, man, they're getting loose out there, man. At Edgewood Country Club. It's your boy, Brandon Dan, Detroit Kool-Aid, credential Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Flannel Sam, vet of the squad, vet of the network, Red Wings correspondent. So let's Wake Up Woodward chat family, going ahead and run up those likes.
Run up those likes. Woo! And Rando Smalls, $5 super chat. Each team's rosters are at 90. Some guys, Brad has plenty of time to add before cut down to 53. That's, man.
Because they actually have a couple spots. Hassanen does not count against the roster right now.
Ain't that interesting?
He won't count until the 50, unless he makes a 53-man roster, because they're utilizing an international player exemption for him right now as a training camp invite.
Brad Holmes, nice.
That's smart. That's some thinking, especially with a 6th-round flyer, a guy that you believe poses some good potential beyond just depth. I think that was real savvy. Now they get a chance to actually take a look at a couple more, because there's another player they brought in as a training camp invite. I saw the doc, John Macaron. I want to make sure we shout him out, who had all these details down. He said even the beat thought that their roster was maxed out. But, in fact, Brad Holmes found a way to open up 2 more spots so they can have 92 rather than the 90.
Interesting.
We
might talk about that a little bit more tomorrow.
We might have to. And shout out to Brandon Graham. You guys know, from Detroit, Michigan. You guys are already familiar with him. But his comments there before we went to break, I thought that they were to balance out the conversation. He's somebody who says, yes, it's right to question those coordinators, but that the Detroit Lions, in terms of all that talent they have over there and who Dan Campbell is, because he ultimately went to that too. He said, bro, Dan Campbell's over there. And if Dan Campbell is still the guy, this team is not going to drop. And he talked about all the talent, and he based a lot of it on that running back duo.
Yeah, well, they do have the best running back duo in the NFL, and it it's not even just that there's such a great running back duo, because we all know that Gibbs could be the best in the league this year. Monty's probably the best number 2 back in the league, period. Could get 1,000 yards. It's that what it could do for Jared Goff in this passing offense. You look at Goff's career. In the 2 years with the Rams in which he had a peak apex Todd Gurley, those were his best Rams years. And we know every year since 2022, the Lions have had a great running game. Yes, even in 2022 with Jamal Williams when he had 1,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. And, of course, the last 2 years with Gibbs and Monty. Having that great of a running game is such a luxury and could be as imperative to anything to the Lions winning the Super Bowl this year. They've got so much talent, particularly on the offensive side of the ball and even on the defensive side of the ball, that I think if they win the NFC North, which I will predict them to do, once you get in the playoffs, once you have a couple of favorable matchups, anything can happen. And if they get there healthy, hey, they certainly have about as good a chance as anybody to get this done.
Last year we talked about when they lost to San Francisco and Dan Campbell went and said it's tough to get back, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
I continue to look and I say, I don't see the lie. What's going to stop them? And then as we got closer to the season, we began to say, you know what? Injuries could derail. We knocked on wood, and then we saw this thing unfold in real time before our eyes. And it honestly, it destabilized things. They still had an opportunity to overcome that. I still believe that if Jared Goff could run that game back, the Detroit Lions are going to move on. That, from your MVP candidate, that cost them 4 turnovers in a playoff game where you couldn't afford to give extra opportunities to the upstart Commanders in their offense. And that, to me, is where I base a lot of who I believe this team to be going forward, the expectations and things of that nature. It is going to be centered around the fact that this squad still almost got it done, despite the fact that there were half the team, half the regular rotation was decimated.
Well, I hope that they don't, and I'm not saying that they did, but I hope that they don't take opportunities like that for granted, because it can all be done at the snap of a finger. I know it was shocking to everybody. Obviously, they had a ton of injuries. I mean, Carlton Davis out, Aiden Hutchinson was out for almost the whole season, Lee McNeil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, Davenport, Barnes. But also, as we know, things happen in the playoffs, unfortunately, and Jared Goff, in his best regular season of his life, had probably the worst day of his life at the worst time. It's tough. But on the flip side, if you win the division, I think it's very imperative that the Lions win the division. If they get in and don't make those kind of mistakes, they have as good a chance as anybody.
Exactly that, man. It's mistakes and injuries that I believe will derail, because what can nobody deny with the Detroit Lions? Their talent. Their talent is going to be some of the best in all of the NFL. And like I said, the book ends from a different perspective. From backfield, defensive backfield, to offensive backfield, you have the best tandems. You have some things that I don't even believe are questions. It's just how good can they be? How high can players like Terry and Arnold push the Detroit Lions ceiling? That, to me, is where this thing is at for the Lions, and that's where Brandon Graham's comments on, this team is still their talent and Dan Campbell. As long as you got that combination there, these guys have a good chance to keep things on the way, as long as, and he's talked about it, they stay healthy. What was the biggest difference between the Lions and the Eagles at the end of the season, besides a Super Bowl ring and a aggressive defensive line? They were healthy.
Sure.
They were healthy.
That was a huge factor of it all. But speaking of a team that wasn't entirely healthy to end the year, both in the regular season and the playoffs, the Detroit Pistons.
Man.
Got to talk about them.
A difference that Stu would have made, man. Let's take a quick one real quick, and we'll get back and we'll talk Detroit Pistons, because Trajan Langdon had a lot to say. We didn't get an opportunity to really break down his comments, because I know you had left that Monday. I left literally the day before his press conference, and we're still waiting to see if we're going to get players for the exit interviews, which will be interesting to hear their comments. But Trajan Langdon talked about the potential direction of this team and what they need to do to keep the not just plateau, but make sure they are pushing this thing higher and higher and higher. Shout out Matt Paxton Lowe.
Higher and higher until we fall. Shout out Wage War for that one. But anywho, Mad Pax is a resin-infused cannabis product. They've got Boom Shakalaka. Boom Shakalaka is the man of the hour right there. And if you guys are into cannabis, I know everyone around the office that partakes loves it. Get yourself some Mad Pax today.
Hey, Tony, what's up, bro?
Same circus, different clowns.
For sure. You want the usual, the big zip?
You know me too well.
I threw a little something extra in there for your ma.
Oh,
Hope
man.
she's doing all right.
Ay, guy, sei un santo. You're a saint.
All right, buddy. We'll see you next time, okay?
Grazie.
Cash and prizes than Woodward Sports. You don't believe us? Here's our latest $10,000 winner.
You know, you guys posted, hey, if you guess all this stuff right, you know, we'll give it's $10,000. I'm like, okay, well, why the hell not?
And the winning doesn't stop there. How about our Outkick Your Coverage winner?
Let's give it up for David Tully, everybody. David Tully. This guy's got a hot girl.
Bigger prizes, bigger giveaways, cash, merch, tickets, and more. All from the biggest sports network in Detroit. No one does it bigger and better than Woodward Sports. Make sure you're following, liking, subscribing on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube for your chances to share in the winning. From Detroit's #1 sports network, Woodward Sports.
Walk into any Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men today. Open 7 days a week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy precision haircut, scalp massage, hot leather neck shave, and hot towel treatment from one of our talented stylists. Step up your game this season and take advantage of our $20 haircut special. Scan the QR code and get your coupon today. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, the ultimate haircut experience. Open 7 days a week. Walk-ins always welcome. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, it's wicked awesome.
Big injuries, big news. Twice a week, Dr. Jeff Pierce from Michigan Sports and Spine joins Woodward Sports Network for the Injury Insider Report. Big D Energy Tuesdays at noon, and Ermanni and Edwards with Maz Thursdays at 3:30. Get expert analysis and in-depth breakdowns on the latest sports injuries from the man trusted by top athletes in the community, like D-Mac. Whether it's the Lions, Pistons, Tigers, or Red Wings, Dr. Pierce talks us through it all. Don't miss the Injury Insider Report with Dr. Jeff Pierce, your go-to source for understanding the impact of injuries on the games and players we love. Only on Woodward Sports Network. Scan the QR code on the screen or go to MichiganSportsandSpine.com to see if Dr. Jeff Pierce can help you.
Hey, that Loom drink that we got is making its way around the golf course
You
right
see
now.
them there. Everyone's walking up and just taking one.
And I've never had one, and I'm kind of scared to drink it, but I might try at some point. We shall see. Depending on how long I am here today. Hey,
Buzz and flannel.
I don't know yet. I am not committing to anything just yet, but you know what? It's got great products, cannabis, drinks, anything that you need. The drinks, no hangover.
Maybe we can get Tim to make it part of your job description to drink one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll see about that. But Loom Cannabis, Loom 30 is the promo code for 30% off. It is Loom Cannabis.
Hey, welcome back, people. It is Wake Up Woodward, live at Edgewood Country Club. All of our broadcasts today that are broadcasting from here. Wake Up Woodward, Big D Energy, Ermanni and Edwards, all brought to you by Mad Packs and Loom Cannabis, live at Edgewood Country Club. It's the tee-off for a kid again. Just want to read this really quickly. This says, thank you for helping provide never thought possible adventures for families raising children with life-threatening conditions. A Kid Again adventures are cost-free outings held year-round so families can set aside their worries and enjoy carefree time again. So shout out to A Kid Again organization giving illness a time out. Anytime that we can be involved with these types of events that are going to benefit people in need, I'm grateful for it. We've been at a lot of these, and through the years, the one common thread beyond it just being at a golf course has been the fact that there are people that are benefiting from this. And that, to me, is what it's all about. So shout out to you guys for staying tapped in, for hitting that like button, and helping to get the awareness out of what's going on here today. And you guys already know, golf season. So pretty soon it's going to be at least one or two of these a week, and it's going to be – I can't wait. Last year we got to do the Kirk Gibson Foundation. and be able to hear about how he's impacting the lives of people, and the fact that a couple of us had some personal connection with what his organization was doing, because my grandma was dealing with some of the same things he was with dementia and Parkinson's and such. So it's cool to be involved in this stuff.
Absolutely. Love being here. Love golf season. It's going to be fun.
You know what? Almost as cool. Detroit Pistons.
Hey.
They're a real question. Is it not about how are they going to pull themselves out of the basement? I'm talking about the basement of the basement. They were in a cellar, bro. 17 wins and then a historically bad low 14 wins. But we already know this. From one historically bad season, they followed up with a historically good season. The first team to go 14 wins to the playoffs. The first team to triple their win total over 2 back-to-back full seasons. That's the Detroit Pistons, led by Trajan Langdon, led by J.B. Bickerstaff, led by Tom Gores having to go and erase a lot of mistakes and resetting the culture of this team on the fly, built around some of the young talent they have here. And Trajan Langdon, at his season-ending press conference, talked about the direction of the squad. And a lot of people believe that it's going to tend towards relying on what you have with these young players and augmenting around them rather than going out there and getting that splashy signing.
This is tough because all of a sudden the East, and I know the Pistons don't have a chance this year, but there's a chance that it becomes very wide open moving forward. And for the taking, we'll see what happens with the Celtics. We'll see how much the Pacers continue to grow and improve. But the Pistons should be in the mix and moving forward for hopefully many years. And the question is, as Kool-Aid kind of paraphrase from what Trajan Langdon said, is do they move forward with the young guys, kind of continue to grow and develop, or do they make a splashy signing? The good news with this Pistons team is I think I'm going to be okay with either for this first offseason, because I think they've given themselves a chance to be like, no Jaden Ivey for more half the season, no Jaden Ivey or beef stew for pretty much the entire playoffs. Mm-hmm. With those two back and healthy, with another year of growth, Asar Thompson getting an offseason instead of recovering from blood clots, there's reason to believe that this team can contend for like a top 4 seed, can make some noise in the playoffs next year, even if they don't make that splashy trade or signing. There's certainly reason to believe that. However, I do think Trajan should keep his phone really, really close, because if there's an offer that he can't refuse, I wouldn't mind them taking that either. Because like I said, the East could turn out to be wide, wide open as it's looking right now.
Yeah, and honestly, the thing that you have to ask yourself is, what's the best way to build around Cade? We were kind of talking about this before the show. Is it the Nikola Jokic way? You put some really good, highly talented players around him who aren't quite at that all-star level yet, but you know that they're going to give you some great contributions like Jamal Murray, like MPJ and others. Or do you go the route of going and surrounding him with high-end talent that can make those all-star teams? You look at guys like Jason Tatum. You look at guys like Donovan Mitchell, and they both have all-stars on their squad. Is that sustainable enough? You look at Pascal Siakam, though. He's another one who he made the all-star team. Nobody else on this squad made the all-star team. Is Cade Cunningham, is that the right approach? Because the more and more that I'm looking at it, the more and more I'm seeing the type of success and how parity is starting to be restored to the NBA, is the more I'm believing that Cade Cunningham is the type of player who can elevate the type of talent that you see around Pascal Siakam and Nikola Jokic, because of the fact that they're everything players. They go out there and they affect the game in so many different ways. And for Cade, on both ends of the court. What we saw this year, because before when we were talking about the splashy signing, it was to accelerate things. We said, look, we're wasting Cade right now, and he's getting no help from anybody. We were wondering, can Duren actually average a double-double? Can Isaiah Stewart average a double-double? These are legitimate questions we were asking just a year ago. Think about that. And this was the best of his help. Can Ivy and Cade, can they coexist? Because we had never even seen it for like 12 games, and Ivy was coming off of the bench during that time. So it's like there were so many different questions that we had entering the season when we were talking about go out there and do something splashy. But we were also saying this. This is one of the things that I continue to stand on. If this team was going to make the jump, like we saw with Orlando and some of the other teams, like we saw with Houston, it was always going to be because these young players were the ones that stepped up. I believe that they have to churn out, not just Cade. When you pick that high in the draft, when you go through what they went through and you tear it down that way, you're not just in this thing to come away with one star. you're in the scene to come away with at least 2 or 3 all-stars. And you got Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, who I do believe can make a great case if they take the necessary leaps forward. And we saw the definite talent on display. But they're the ones that are going to determine, in my opinion, what you do in terms of, do you just marginally tweak around them, which we saw worked out to the tune of adding 30-plus wins to them, or do you have to go out there and get that solid secondary scorer that's going to go out there and can put up 30 on any given night?
God, that's so tough
because it would help them.
There's so many.
It takes away.
There's so many things that they can do to help build up this team. When you look at, you mentioned Jason Tatum, you also mentioned the Magic. I think a team we're forgetting about a little bit because they had horrible injury luck last year. I expect them to be better next year and not as hurt, although you can never tell.
I don't know. I think they're going to be back into the hurt thing. Their team is made up of players who wind up on that report more often
we'll
than
see.
not.
Hey, if they're out of the way, they're out of the way. But with the
see what I'm trying to do there?
with the Magic and with the Celtics, they legitimately have drafted multiple all-star caliber players. With the Pistons, we don't know yet. I think there's a chance that Asar Thompson makes one down the road. I know Jaden Ivey was putting up the best numbers of his life before he unfortunately went down. We talk about Holland, Duren. You just never know. But there's also, when you talk about the Denver Nuggets, and this is something that I really, really want to hammer home to you guys, to everybody in the chat, to everybody on this show. One of the narratives about them that kind of gets on my nerves, and you see it perpetuated, the whole no all-star teammates thing. And this is why. Yes, Jamal Murray's never made an all-star team. Yes, Michael Porter Jr. has never made an all-star team, but I'll start with a Jamal Murray. In the playoffs that the Nuggets won the championship, he averaged 26, 6, and 7 on 47, 40, 93 shooting splits. You could also
all-star worthy.
Well, that's the thing. Is there going to be somebody who proves to be a playoff elevator? Because Cade Cunningham's already proven that he can lead a team with this talent to the playoffs. And especially with them getting more healthy, if they kind of run it back, it wouldn't shock me if they won 50 or more games. Is there somebody on this team that can either be that all-star caliber player or be that just playoff demon? We don't know yet. But like I said, if the right move is there.
But you know what I like is this. When you look at Jamal Murray, when you look at MPJ, I don't hear them, whether they're saying it in their local media or not, I don't know. I don't hear them crying about if they're getting the looks or not. Let their fans do that for them. We just see them show up every year and continue to be consistent. And that's what you need out of these guys. You need these players to listen to J.B. Bickerstaff say you can be stars in your own lanes. That's a quote from him.
Yes.
That Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren both backed up. And he said that it helped them this year. Take that next step forward. We saw both of them. What did we see, Stu? Were his stats like blowing anybody out the water as it relates to centers? No. But we saw him become a star in his own lane. What was something that followed him the entire season was that he's one of your best rim protectors in all of the NBA, one of your best paint protectors in all of the NBA. This wasn't just on heart. It wasn't just on hustle. It wasn't just on part 36. This was in his limited minutes. He was doing what other people who were getting 20 more minutes and 15 more minutes a night were putting up. And that was Beef Stu. You didn't want to challenge him. We saw him blocking even more dunks this year. Goodness gracious, man! Shout out to those guys. It's interesting how we came into the season questioning one thing, but now as it relates to these players, I'm gonna say it. You have to have one of these or two of these guys step up to that level, and I believe that they could. When you looked at the trajectory that Jaden Ivey was on, right? I believe he was a guy that was becoming another one of those stars in his own lane. When the fourth quarter turned around, he seemed to just take a little bit more responsibility, especially when Cade Cunningham was getting blitzed. I implore people, go back and look at the offense and what they were doing. Jaden Ivey understood when the ball handler is being double-teamed, you have to show, and not just show, my coach would say it religiously, make yourself available. Find the open spot. Even though the play on the diagram shows a dot that has a straight line, you don't have to just run that straight line. And it seemed like with these players and some of the young players, as they're trying to learn to not be as historically bad as the organization has been, it seems like they're doing some things too robotic. Jaden Ivey was a player who, as a coach's son, he understands how to run the thin line, the straight line, but he also understands how to go off course just a little bit to be able to compensate for where the space may be or the defense may be And that, to me, was something they were missing. We talk about they need a secondary ball handler, another facilitator. Think about the end of games, some of those fourth quarters. Jaden Ivey was hitting game-winning shots. Jaden Ivey was going into the fourth quarters and putting up buckets, man. And he was averaging about 17, 4, and 4, a player who I do believe has that 18, 5, and 5, maybe 25 and 5 in his future. But you're right. Whether that gets him to an all-star game or not, he has to get there if you're talking about not going out and making the splashy signing. You can't not make the splashy signing, not get that type of leap from some of your young players, and only marginally. Oh, yeah, definitely have one, brother. Appreciate you. You have to have the combination, man. Of these young players, I believe being who's going to be the stars. Think about the fact that Orlando Magic fans get to sit back and know Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero are two of your top under 25 players. There are some of your just top players in the league, period. We have to be able to say this next season. We have to be able to look out there and say it's not just Cade, but player Ivy, player Thompson, player Durant. One of those players has to take that next step towards being that guy that everyone says, yo, they got two young stars, whether they're making an all-star game or not.
You're right, and I could see, and I know this is like way too much in the future.
Talk to me.
I could actually see them build a team that is similar to the 2023 Nuggets. I know I just mentioned them. I mean, I'm not saying that Cade will ever get to the level that Nikola Jokic is now because he's the best player in the world, but what I count against
They are the only players averaging that stat line or better.
I mean, I'm not going to say that he can't. I'm very high on Cade, but just when you look at those teams that they had that year, or that team that they had that year, this is something that I could foresee. Like, I could foresee, I'm not saying that Jaden Ivey's ever going to shoot the ball like Jamal Murray did, but be that kind of fringe all-star, maybe an all-star that elevates in the playoffs. And then they also had super-duper playoff role players like MPJ and Aaron Gordon. Could I see that?
Oh, Aaron Gordon.
Yeah. Could I see that from like the Durans and the Asars and the Ron Hollands of the world? Sure, I could.
You know what?
Sure, I could.
I used to say that I thought that their makeup was similar to OKC, because obviously the comparison between Cade and SGA.
Yeah.
But I actually believe that you're cooking here with the makeup of Denver, and that's what brought it up. That's what brought them to my mind is that, okay, we see a player who puts up similar stat lines. Obviously, they affect the game from different plays, different areas of the court, and Jokic is an MVP and a champion.
Yes.
He is bona fide proven to elevate his teammates. Cade Cunningham has proven that he can affect his teammates and elevate them a little bit, but we want to see if he can get it to that championship and playoff run level that we see out of Jokic. But that's what drew my attention there is no disrespect to MPJ and Jamal Murray, because those guys, that's why I said they play at an all-star level. But you're going to have – that's why I think you have to get that in-house. I don't know how many times you go into, the offseason and you get a player like a Malik Beasley who did so well and outperformed what everyone thought, and even he didn't perform at an all-star level. Think about that.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't believe you're just going to go into free agency if you're trying to do some of the budget deals that it looks like that's being forecast. You're not going out there and just doing that. You're going to have to get that growth internally, or you're going to have to gut these young players. One way or the other, it's going to come from the young players.
I mean, they could get like
either trading them, or they got to get one of these guys to step up.
Yeah, I mean, they could be like the KCPs and the Bruce Browns were for that team. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, I'm making a big leap and saying that they're going to turn into the 2023 Nuggets. The point is that you see certain media outlets and even certain shows on this network take a hard stance and they've got to sign a guy now, or you see some that are like, absolutely not, let these guys grow. My point is that I don't really feel uncomfortable with either option. I think that they can build a championship team either way, and what looks to be, think about this, the NBA as a whole is a heck of a lot more wide open than, say, it was when the Steph Curry and KD Warriors and the LeBron Cavs
East looking right now?
Right, yeah, they can do this thing. As soon as next year, they can be real factors in this, because I'll tell you what, would any of you be shocked if the Pacers or the Knicks go to the finals?
I wouldn't be shocked. Not at all.
And that's the point. Like, the Pistons can do this next year. Maybe not win the title, but be real bona fide contenders if they go either route.
Because when we talked about in the regular season, we got bullish about the Pistons. That's why I always wait. Shout out Rod Beard, the legend. 20, 30 games in, you're able to see who's dysfunctional or not. That's something we started following. I told y'all see these dysfunctional teams. They're going to have a shot at 6. They're going to prove that they were 5th. They're going to finish at 6th. And that's realistically what happened. And when you look at the playoffs, I think that you can apply some of the same metric. You're looking at some of these top seeds in the East who are not looking as formidable. And it's interesting because, remember, we were bantering some things behind the scenes when I was like, I don't know why, but I felt like the path was the Bucks and then the Cavs. I thought that would have matched up better for them. Shout out to Bray. The GOAT, man.
Braylon
Go
Edwards.
blue, bro.
What up?
What up, though?
What's going on? You guys are literally right around the corner from where I live. Finally, you come to the west side of town. You boys doing good talking about those Pistons?
Hey, talking about the Pistons, we talking about a splashy signing versus the necessity for them to get growth internally from guys like Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson.
I think the best thing that they can do this year, talking about Trajan as well as JB, is don't leave room for thought. Whatever you believe in, whatever the process that got you from 14 to 44, who are we? Who are we? Being honest, I learned this from people talking about Brad Holmes. From 14 to 44, who are we? Let them cook until they can. I got to hit these links. All right, brother.
Shout out Braylon Edwards.
Edwards, man, the absolute GOAT. And you know what? He's right. At least to this point in it, Trajan Langdon has almost given himself a little bit of that trust in Trajan that it usually takes a couple years to get that. But this historic turnaround, I'm comfortable with the hands that this organization is left in and the path forward to the point that I don't think that it's not outlandish. I thought I was being outlandish for thinking that this squad is in a good position. Out of the all dysfunction teams, you're looking at the tops of this. The Pistons have a good chance to be a solid top 4 team next season.
Yeah, and
solidly in the East, that is.
Big Con 51. I think JB would. I think JB would have to call the doctor for 4 hours after this one. Steph Curry with Cade. Just imagine. I think Golden GSW are blowing it up this year. I mean, I would love that.
They would ask JB, sir, how long ago did you pop the pill? I ain't popped no pills.
No pills.
I still need your help,
It's
though.
been 8 hours.
All natural.
Come on, so you say all natural.
No, but I would all of a sudden turn into a Steph fan real quick if that happened. I'll just say that.
Really? Hey, instantly we have to do a jersey bet. But you know what? If there's a year to do a splashy signing, it's crazy to see all these stars, these older stars now who are going to be on the market. Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Zion Williamson. Oh, well, he's not older, but we understand that there's still some limitations there as it relates to if you bring him here. Giannis Antetokounmpo and others, man. Others. There's even some rumors and noise of other people that we'll bring it out in some weeks to come, maybe on the Wednesday show with Rod. But they're going to have an opportunity if they want to mortgage the future, or at least mortgage the now because their future's here. They're going to have an opportunity to do something if they want.
I was going to say, I mean, in these, I'm not quite willing to declare this now, but I think an interesting discussion maybe in the future is who would you be most comfortable with giving up? And obviously, I've staked my claim that I'm not mad if they don't do anything, but if they did, talking like OJ, if I did it, but like if I did it, but if I did, that's if they did, that's something that I'm going to be really thinking hard about. I
want to have that conversation, not because I want to trade any of the young guys, because I believe in them, but I do believe the conversation is interesting because of how this goes. You only have, in my opinion, a couple players maybe, because you're not trading Cade, obviously.
Right.
Just a couple players that maybe will pique the interest of other teams, but they're the players that you want to add to, not get rid of. That's what makes this thing that much more intriguing because, you know, I like Marcus Sasser and what he could potentially provide for them long term, but you're not trading. It's not like Marcus Sasser, Bobby Clinton, and Tim Hardaway is getting you one of these star players.
Absolutely, those three.
That's where the conversation gets interesting because for any of these guys, they're going to ask for a couple first-round picks, probably a couple young players too.
Yeah, and not those ones.
Oh, that's so steep.
The Asars and the Ivies of the world.
Yeah,
but
the Ivies, Asar, Jalen Duren, that's it. I don't think they're looking at anybody. I believe Ron Holland's another one you could potentially sell because of high potential, but I believe that teams are going to want to see him for another season.
Sure.
Go through the summer league, see him for another year to see exactly what type of player he could be.
Sure, and for the record, I think that Ron Holland would have had better numbers on a team where that was worse and he could have got more usage, but we see the role that he provided here, but I I understand the trepidation for what he could be because we've already seen guys like Asar and Duran and Ivy show more. At least as now because they've been in the league longer.
Oh, snap. It's 10
It's
already?
10 o'clock.
Wow. Remotes usually don't fly through like that.
We haven't talked about sports in a while. I certainly didn't.
Welcome back, man.
Welcome back.
Like, it's my brothers,
Welcome
man.
back.
I missed you guys. I had fun with my family. Enjoyed the time down south. But you know what? This has been an awesome time. We're live at the Edgewood Country Club. You guys already saw Braylon. He's getting out there online. That dude, Justin and Tim, they're getting out there to hit the links as well. This is the tee-off for a kid again. That's F-O-R-E. And once again, I'm going to just read exactly what this is benefiting today. It says, thank you for helping provide never-thought-possible adventures for families raising children with life-threatening conditions. A Kid Again adventures are cost-free outings held year-round so families can set aside their worries and enjoy carefree time again. And all the different whole sponsors out here, you have Highland, Lady Jane's, Wicked Awesome Witches, WJR 760 AM is out here, Loom Cannabis, Mad Packs, and, of course, Edgewood Country Club, among others that are out here, some other vendors and such. But it's been a beautiful day, and this broadcast is brought to you by Loom and Mad Packs. Probably the best ad read that we got on the entire network, man. Boom shakalaka.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Boom shakalaka.
I will never forget the opening day when I had a few and was doing that read. It was so much fun. So much fun.
Man. We break this thing down now.
I think so.
Let's break it down. Chat family, man, this has been a show, and I appreciate you guys for tapping in with us live at Edgewood Country Club. Stay tapped in. Big D Energy, Ermanni and Edwards, they are going to be here as well. And then the heavyweights rounding out the shows, the live shows here at Woodward Sports for the day. Shout out to that dude, Justin. He's been doing a lot to help us get set up, and now he's over here right now. They're about to hit the links and get some content and such. We got Cavassier Chase in the building. Hey, say what up to the people that do, Justin, as we rock up.
Hey, what up, though? You know what it is. Look at how clean I be looking. Shout out to Tim for the shirt. I'm looking really official for this golf season. Excited to represent Woodward Sports. Hey, we got the Loom and the Mad Packs on the side. We repping out here. Best cannabis in the game. I'm about to go hit it and maybe indulging in some buzzins while I'm out there. Hell yeah, baby.
Shout out.
Oh, don't forget the content, Justin. The content. Dog, you know what? This season is actually growing on me a lot more and more, man. Golf season. I like it. But we also got our brother Matthew Broder, KG. Get well soon. Shout out to you as well, Woodward Ringside, for what you guys are doing. Boots on the ground, credentialed events. I know Justin hit some events as well. So this is awesome to see what Woodward Sports is doing. We got Cavassier Chase holding down sounds this morning. What up, though, brother?
Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, just hanging out here with my guy JB. Just having a good time over here, looking at those donuts and that chipmunk. So, yeah. So looking forward to diving into what's left over, and then just gonna be filling in for audio for Big D. So I'll be hanging around for a little bit longer. You guys get a little bit more of me sticking around, like I said. So
shout out.
Hey, and shout out, we got JB Smooth over there. He was holding down things in the TD space, and you guys don't understand at remotes, it gets way more difficult sometimes to even keep up with the chat. It gets way more difficult to keep up with all the different things that are going on over there in that TD space because it is different than the normal setup. But JB Smooth, one of the best in the game, and our MVP.
Oh my
What up, though, JB?
Hey, what's going on, man? I just try as much as I can. Shout out to everyone in the chat for tapping in. Woodward Ringside, episode's out right now. Fast and Loose, me and Chase. We're recording another episode tomorrow. And I got to give a RIP to the great Sabu, who passed away yesterday. He's 60 years old, one of the legends of hardcore wrestling. So you will forever be missed. Rest in paradise, my guy.
Hey, shout out, man. Shout out. And Flannel Sam, the vet of the squad, vet of the network, Red Wings correspondent. Glad to have you back in the building, man. And overall, we're Pistons contributors as well.
Absolutely. Good to be back. Got some culture in Ireland, but now I am back here. And shout out to the Tigers tonight. Chance to get back on track for both them and Jackson Jobe. And let's all root for a big 0 for 4 from Mr. Alex Bregman. Can we agree on that?
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to see him do good anytime he plays the Detroit Tigers.
He's having a good year, though. Damn.
Having a great year, man. It's your boy Brandon, the AK Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Once again, live from Edgewood Country Club. Stay tapped in with the rest of Woodward Sports, but most importantly, you guys have a blessed day, man. Have a good one. We appreciate you guys for choosing to support Wake Up Woodward, man.